Surprising things my avoidant partner taught me in our relationship together within our last few years. They completely rewired how I see relationships, how I see myself, and love. Little warning, after this episode, you might either fall completely head over heels again with your avoidant partner, or you might understand them on a completely different level. And yes, you heard right. Being with an avoidant partner doesn't only have downsides. There are also things that they are very good at and come from a different point of view, different perspective. And there's so much hate about the avoidant attached partner online, so many myths and misunderstanding. And I think this episode might take a little bit of a different view on things, because not all avoidant partners are the same, and they're all a spectrum, and they're just human beings as well, having gone through trauma. After this episode, you might hopefully see that there can be good parts about avoidant attachment style, and you will hopefully also see them in your partner. So, do you ever feel like your partner's coldness or distance or I need space messages feel like personal rejection? Like you're constantly on edge, trying to decode what they actually feel, if they're still into you, do they actually love you as much as you love them? And always trying to figure out what is going on. Are they going to leave you? Are they into someone else? To prove your own biggest fears to be right. You're obsessing over them, why they're pulling away, shutting down, needing space, and why you just can't feel really properly safe around them emotionally, at least. Well, if you're in a relationship with an avoidant, only seeing what they do wrong, this episode will be super helpful for you, because your subconscious will always find proof for your own beliefs. And if you have an anxious attachment style, it wants to prove you that people will always leave you, that you will be abandoned, and because you're not good enough or you're too much, and because you're just not lovable. And it always then paints the avoidant as this bad villain, that they are the bad ones, that they don't love you hard enough in the right ways. And this episode is really for you if this sounds like anything you can relate to. By the way, at the end, I'll give you action steps to apply, because only actions create results, and little summaries. By the way, if you're new to this podcast or on YouTube, I am Yula, the Anxious to Secure coach, and welcome to the Anxious to Secure podcast. So here are 5 things my partner taught me that I'm very grateful for. Disclaimer, I'm not a therapist or doctor. This content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, or heal any mental health condition. If you're in an abusive relationship or dealing with severe mental health challenges, always seek professional advice. Number 1 is stop taking things so personally. So I used to be always super shy and add meaning into certain situations or into everything. So if a friend didn't reply to a text within a few minutes or hours or even days, and some even months, I would completely spiral, feel anxious, obsessed. I couldn't just let go. I would replay what I said wrong, make it mean something like, I'm not a good friend, I'm not a good person, I should be more fun and just be different, and feel very resentful towards this person. And I used to live in London for 9.5 years. I often felt very lonely, that kind of thinking. And it's not necessarily just the friends, it's my kind of thinking that created my anxiety. So some friends moved away after a while, right? Because if you're living in a big city, you know how it is. People move there for work and eventually move away again. Others were just always working extremely late because that's what you do in London. Or they just prioritize their partners, their families, other friends, other circles, and just didn't want to travel to meet you, because after work in London, you have to at least travel like 45 minutes up to an hour to actually meet someone. And I took this personally. What I've learned about, my avoidant partner in the situation is he really taught me something I will never forget. And I'm so, so grateful for that. Their silence or their actions doesn't have anything to do with me. That's something that is applied easily, but it's something you have to remind yourself every day about if you get triggered, anxious, and add meaning into things. It was often about their work and about their commitment and their anxiety and their exhaustion levels, their attachment styles as well. Because again, often I attracted avoidant friends and colleagues and I chased more of them, or simply how they are. And it's not about me, how funny I am or what a good friend I am, or it has nothing to do with me as a person. And that is actually something very reassuring to know, because you don't have to change, you don't have to chase them. Some people want to check on with friends once a month. Some people only communicate with their friends every other month. And it's not about you. You don't have to change the way you text with them or you show up. You just need to focus on yourself more and regulating your nervous system and realizing their actions have nothing to do with your worth. And it's okay if it stings, it's okay if it hurts, you can validate your pain and your needs here, that you have different needs as them, that you want to communicate more often with them, that you would love to see them more often, but you don't have to try to change them or try to chase them or to add meaning into those kind of actions and take it personally, because that just doesn't help. It just only adds more suffering. And then I also learned to focus on either the friendships who gave me more of a return, who were more committed and had the kind of same needs as I did, and also accepted the friendships who just had different needs, but I still wanted in my life, the ones who were messaging with me more occasionally or did show different kind of investment, who were maybe busy with their families or had a longer way to travel. And then when we did meet up, I came towards this meeting without the resentment and I was able to enjoy the connection much more. And this is really such a key lesson. So I realized not everything reflects my worth. So slowly I stopped reading rejection into quiet moments and I stopped chasing and I gave myself more love and acceptance. So my brain then started separating others' moods and choices from meaning, from the stories in my head. And for an anxious person like me, how I used to be, that was huge. So my ask is really try this, apply this, get curious. Where are you adding meaning into things? And the same goes for my partner, by the way. So if he needed more space, more personal space, or just wanted a day for himself or wanted to go on a solo trip, I knew that was about him, about what he needed, how he is recharging his energy. And it has nothing to do with our relationship, with his love towards me. And this way I was able to give this to him with much more ease, without overthinking, without spiraling, and it changed everything in our relationship as well. So now my question is for you, when someone doesn't respond or pull away, how can you remind yourself that, their triggers and their reactions and their needs about them? Where are you adding meaning too fast to things that is actually much more about them than about you? Second, being selfish is not being selfish. So before him, I said yes to so many things, too many things, always, even when I wanted to say no or when I wasn't sure, just because of this huge amount of guilt. I was exhausted and resentful, and my self-esteem just went lower and lower the more I put other people first and myself last. If this sounds familiar, let me know in the comments on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. Like at work, I used to take on extra work or sign up for all of the weekends we are supposed to work for Fashion Week, because I used to work for luxury fashion, Roland Mouret, Peter Pilotto, and all of these places in London, which sounded exciting first, but after a while it's just draining. You get nothing back, you don't get paid for this, you don't get any appreciation, nothing. You're just exhausted, and after weeks and weeks of working late and in the morning, and you get literally emotionally abused at work, you still have to show up, even if you're sick and exhausted and your body is saying, I can't do this anymore. So after actually years in this work, I realized I have to put myself first, not because I'm selfish, but because I am loving myself now more. I'm respecting myself. I can't do this anymore. And it doesn't matter if I'm risking not being liked at work or risking even in the end being fired. In the end, you were never actually being fired for putting yourself first. Actually, I realized my colleagues and me, the more you said yes to things, the more they pulled you and then the more they used you as a pushover. So anyone who became more selfish, even at work, and said no, the more they realized, hey, they can't mess with you. But they kept you actually longer in the company, because in the end, the people who said yes to everything, they got completely exhausted, burned out, and had to remove themselves from this environment completely and change their career. And in the end, I also changed my career because I just didn't want to accept it to be treated like this any longer. So putting yourself first is not selfish. It's like putting your own oxygen mask on first in the airplane and then on your babies and on your kids, because otherwise you would die and then you can't help out anyone else anymore either. The same goes in everyday situation in your family. If I would overdo, overplan, do everything during the day, I quickly get migraines, I get grumpy and moody, and then at the end of the day, I will snap at my partner, I will get very grumpy and resentful. And this is not going to benefit anyone, not me, not my partner, not our relationship. And if you have kids, that's another level on top of that. So you have to prioritize you first. You go first, then others will follow. And that is something I have learned from my partner. Because if you have an anxious attachment style, you usually learn that you want to put everyone else first because your fear is being abandoned, being rejected, not being included. And you think if you people please, if you put everyone else first, if you say yes to everything, you will be liked. You are part of a group and they will stay. But it's not about earning your love. This is not how it works. And the avoidant attachment style, they usually have learned to put themselves first. And sometimes it can go too far. You know, if everyone only put themselves first and would never then compromise and check on other people, that wouldn't work either. But you have to learn to first put your oxygen mask first and then to be able to see, hey, how can you then work with your partner, with your kids, with your friends at work to make this work. So it's not about only focusing on you and being completely selfish, but like prioritizing you and then seeing what else can be done. Yeah, so now before I commit to anything new, let's say, before I plan a weekend and I just ask my partner what he wants to do, I check in with myself first, like, hey, what do I actually want to do? What do I feel like? How does my body feel like? How does my mind feel like? And then I check in with my partner as well. And then we come together and collaborate on our ideas together. Maybe he wants to spend the morning alone and I want to do some work in between, edit some YouTube videos, and then we can create some quality time together in the afternoon. And this is really how you can make it work together by prioritizing yourself first. So my question for you is, what's one small thing you can do this week just for you, even if you feel guilty first? Because feeling guilty is not the problem. In the end, the longer and the more you apply it, the more you realize, hey, this is not being selfish. It's okay if I even feel guilty, but it's needed. It's self-love and it's self-care. And how can you be more selfish this week? What are you going to do to put yourself first? And the third step that my avoidant partner has taught me that I'm really grateful for is being more light, fun, and adventurous. And I feel like this is also very typical for avoidant attachment styles. The anxious attachment is usually more like worrying, tense, all about responsibility, masculine energy, predicting the future, being hypervigilant, planning, micromanaging, keeping everything in check, while the avoidant partner, my partner, is a little bit more the opposite. It's like, it's not that much about external control, more internal control, about more controlling more feelings. But when it comes to external things, they are more like, hey, you know what? They love going on a hike. They love going traveling. They don't mind some uncertainty here, now and there. For example, they can say, hey, up this weekend and let's go somewhere. Or during COVID, and I had some very anxious moments in between. Usually I was quite calm, but there were some moments I was extremely anxious when I had some migraines and there were some changes of flights and I couldn't really, when I had completely migraines and vision problems. I couldn't read and I panicked. My partner, because he was so calm, he was more light, he wasn't spiraling, he was able to soothe me, to really focus on the facts and to create an action plan for me. And even when we're traveling, he's more the one who takes charge of things. Because when I'm anxious, having this light, fun energy around, someone who makes jokes, it's so important that you have these different energies. At the beginning, when you meet someone, you are attracted to certain type of qualities, let's say. And it's often that the anxious is attracted to this like sense of adventure, that they're not so structured, they're completely different. Then later, and this is the thing we often get triggered in our partner. So I want you just to remind yourself that maybe these are the exact things that actually made you fall in love with your partner. But now, after the honeymoon phase, we're often like, okay, why isn't he more like organized, on top of things, stepping it up? Why is he so childish as well? Because he's different, and that's exactly what makes them so special. For example, last summer we decided we wanted to go take a last-minute trip. In the end, it didn't came to this. We took a different kind of trip, but that's okay. But anyway, we were planning a trip to France somewhere, and my anxious brain wanted to know exactly where we're going to go, what place we're going to stay for the entire time, one place, one hotel, and having everything booked and prepared. I wanted to know we are safe, to have certainty in our plan, to then fully relax. However, my partner, of course, more adventurous, more loosey-goosey. I don't know the right word, but it's more the opposite. So he thought we can just book a flight and the rest we will figure out on the way. We will just travel every day or every other day and stay in different places and have more of an adventure to really discover different places. And for me, the idea of it sounded amazing. If I would have met someone on a date and we would have talked about this would have been the quality I would have been attracted to right away. Someone who can just let go and isn't stressed about things. But in real life, the more closer I came to our holiday, the more anxious I became. But again, I'm now a more secure person, so I was able to remind myself, what? My partner did these kind of trips in the past and it always worked out. He was able to reassure me that he will be able to plan it once we're there, and every time when he did this kind of trips, it worked out. Again, having this kind of different energies is important, because if you are someone who needs more planning and certainty and you have a partner who's more adventurous, spontaneous, it's good to just also be inspired by them. However, I do see if you're traveling with someone, your partner is not good in planning and it's a complete chaos, then I understand that you might not feel safe in those kind of situations. However, I know my partner very well so far, and I know he can take care of those things like this very well, just as a side note. And also to let you know here, the anxious and the avoidant partners regulate in the opposite way. So the anxious me really wanted to predict everything to feel safe. And the avoidant, this is an important part to understand, they do need freedom and independence to feel safe. That's why we offered like the opposite, because we just need different things to feel safe. When I try to control every detail, it's my nervous system basically saying, if I plan it all perfectly, then I won't get hurt. And when he avoids planning, it's his nervous system saying, if I stay very flexible, I won't feel trapped. And in the end, we just both want the same thing, right? We want safety. And we have learned through our childhood experiences that safety is created through different things. And yeah, I think it's sometimes really inspiring to just look at our partner and to learn from their side of things as well. So ask yourself now, where could I let go of some control this week and try something spontaneous, even if it feels uncomfortable? Or how can I add some lightheartedness into my very rigid routine or into my rigid mind? How can I be inspired by maybe my partner's sense of adventure or something like this? And number 4 I learned about my avoidant partner is don't trust everyone and to be a little bit more cautious. I used to trust people immediately as soon as I sensed, hey, I like the vibe. friends, partners, colleagues, strangers, and I immediately thought, hey, they're nice, I get the vibe. I would emotionally invest right away, trauma dump, connect, all of these things. And my more avoidant partner, completely the opposite. Avoidant attachment, they don't trust other people. They only have learned to trust themselves, to be independent. That's what they're really good at. And you think, how can this be good? If you're that extreme, it's not good. But I used part of that to help me in this way, because in the end, trust is earned. I can't just give it away right away. And the avoidant attachment thought of I can't trust anybody is also wrong. But I got more inspired by him. People like, my partner, they just don't trust that easily because of their experience. So he believes he can survive on his own, somewhere in the mountains or far away where society can't get him. And at the beginning, this triggered me a lot when he talked about this. I felt insecure and I had to prove myself more by chasing reassurance and feeling very hurt, and then telling him how annoying that is, all of these things. In the end, I found a middle path that really worked for me, and I realized where he was coming from, because it was a protective part of him that said these kind of things and has this kind of thoughts. So I used to always kind of meet people, and if I kind of instantly liked them and we had a vibe going and we could talk for hours, I thought immediately, oh my, she's going to be my new best friend. And because I always had this sense of longing for friendships and connection, because again, as I shared, that part of me is still kind of missing. So, but nowadays I've learned you can't trust everyone right away. You can't know this person just because after one good intense chat with them. So now, instead of just jumping to conclusions or letting my feelings run the show, I just pause, I get curious, and I just watch. I observe how they act over time and if I can trust them. And so many people over time, they just are not showing up for you anymore. It is something I think to do with our society nowadays, with phones, having other priorities, but also if, I say I'm going to meet you next week, Tuesday, 8:00, I'll be there. You don't have to check in 10 times with me. But nowadays, if I meet someone and they don't reach out or they ignore my messages, I know for sure, okay, I could give them one more chance. But then if they keep doing this, I know they're not for me. They're not secure enough to actually be reliable. And I'm only invested nowadays into people who actually want to meet me consistently, who will just cancel 10 times. Yeah. And this approach saved, lots of heartache. It helps me to stop disappointment early on and unnecessary anxiety. And it stopped me from attaching too quickly, too soon, or to the idea of the person before I actually knew them. And it also saved me from lots of scams, I received a call a few months ago. I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to get scammed again if I mention this here, what kind of scam it was, but it was really, really triggering. I just heard lots of times my partner's voice in my mind that, don't trust anyone so too fast. So I was slowing down the conversation, even though they really ramped up the pressure. They tried to trigger my fight or flight instinct, which they did. The heart rate was increased massively. I panicked, but I remember my partner's voice, and I slowed down. I tried to record the conversation, which wasn't possible in the moment, but I was texting my partner. So I only tried to slow down as much as possible and stretch this conversation out. So I didn't take any action. I didn't transfer them any money, even though they were really good in really proving themselves of who they were. Because they managed to call from a number that was actually an official number. That was the really messed up thing. So that's why I thought, okay, they're actually real. Anyway, and then I also listened to my mom's voice because she always said, if it's very urgent, they will call back again. So I would just try to say, you know what, you will call back later. And they didn't want to do that. So I was like, okay, another sign they're actually not the real deal. So as someone who's anxiously attached, you probably over trust other people and you don't trust yourself. And what I learned from my avoidant partner is trust is more earned. Don't give it away right away. And yeah, so now I found a middle ground where I've learned to trust myself over time and also to see, hey, who are you actually? I'm going to meet you for who you are. I'm going to ask more questions before I trust everyone right away. And that helped me enormously. So my question for you is, who in your life are you trusting maybe too quickly, or in which kind of situations? And how could you just slow down and see if their actions truly match their words? Or in general, like what situation are you opening up too fast, too soon before you actually know what kind of person they are? Maybe it's in dating or parties or online, on social media. You trust people quickly based on what they say or what they do in a very short time, or more gradually. And before I share the last and final thing I've learned from my avoidant partner is check out the free attachment library in the link, worksheets, journaling prompts, guides. If you want to go from anxious to secure, if you work on your jealousy, if you're feeling needy and want to get to the roots of that, if you want to learn to detach easier, there are quizzes on finding your unmet needs in your relationships. So if you have unmet core needs like certainty or safety or love, you will always sabotage in your relationship because your subconscious mind will always try to meet your needs in the fastest way possible. May this be through conflict, through overthinking, through being more clingy. So you want to find out what is your core unmet need and meet it in healthier ways. There's also a quiz on attachment theory. There's also a quiz to find out your attachment style if you're not 100% certain that you're actually anxious attached, because maybe by now you're more securely attached. So check this out. And let's continue with number 5, what I learned from my avoidant partner. And that is actually, you will be very surprised about this one, less fear and more empathy. So yes, it's a huge surprise. And you think like, hey, whoa. The avoidant partner can be empathetic. Yes, they can. So my partner showed me that even small fears can be met with compassion in a very unique way. So for example, a few years ago when we lived in London, it is London, so you will find some house friends occasionally. Like we had some mice, and eventually there was this huge sound in our kitchen, like a huge scratching sound. And I was terrified because we didn't know it was a big rat, a big mouse, or something. I don't know. I was freaked out. My partner was the one who stayed calm. First, he was a little bit freaked out too, but we both came into the kitchen together and we tried to figure out where it came from. He was the one who really empathized this mouse for me. He told me stories. It gave it a name, it gave it a cute character. It really made this huge fear shrink into this cute little character with big ears. And this helped me to get over my fears. And that struck with me forever, because now I always remind myself of how my partner would talk me down, how he would reassure me, of how I can make this cute or how I can change this perspective. And then actually, I will remove the kitchen, I don't know, it's like a wooden pallet or whatever you call it. In the moment, there was this tiny little mouse sitting there, and it looked terrified of us. So he was so right. This tiny little mouse was terrified of us, had literally this huge ears, and looked at us, froze for a second, while my partner and I was like, moving away. It like ran away somewhere else. And yes, we have tried everything still to, keep it clean, remove everything. We even got pest control and nothing worked, by the way. In the end, we did move. We actually moved. It was a coincidence that we moved then out of the country very suddenly to Italy because of other situations. But anyway, we still lived with this mouse and lots of sounds underneath the cardboards and in the walls, because eventually we heard it everywhere in the night. This way of him neutralizing and cutifying the fear made me so much calmer. If he would have not been there, I would have not been able to sleep with the mouse for like another few weeks, but it made it possible. I'm not saying you should live in a flat with mouse or mice or cockroaches or whatever. I lived with everything because in London you do experience everything, but it just helps so much. And my other flatmate, who used to live there as well, she did freak out over everything. And yeah, it's normal if you don't have someone or are not being told these tools. So now when I feel anxious over tiny little things or bigger things, whether it's about my partner or a friend or a mouse or a potential, I don't know, other scenario, I just notice my fear and I just feel it. I validate myself, and instead of spiraling and obsessing over it, first of all, respond with empathy for myself and that fear. And I check on through what can I control. And I also try to make it cute. See, hey, you know what? Is it actually something I should be scared of? Or look from it from a different perspective. And it's a small shift, but it rewires your nervous system to train yourself that you are safe. There's nothing to be afraid of. And instead of fear controlling you or controlling the situation, because you can't control it in the end, you control the fear. You let it be there as well. And my question for you is, when you're afraid, how could you pause and respond with curiosity and compassion instead of panic? And what stories can you tell yourself in that moment that make it either cute or change the perspective? And here's a little summary. Stop taking things personally, first of all. Second of all, being selfish is self-care and it's not selfish. It's self-love and self-respect. The third things I've learned from my partner is embrace the fun, the light-heartedness, the adventure, and be more in the moment, more childlike. There's nothing wrong with being more childish. Actually, it's the most regulating thing you can do for your nervous system to become more secure as well. And the fourth thing I've learned from my partner is trust is more earned. You shouldn't just give it away. It's not coming automatic. And the fifth thing is respond to fear with more empathy and curiosity and from a more detached perspective. And my little homework for you is, first of all, pick one moment this week where your anxious brain starts overthinking. Pause and ask, is this about me or just their space? Write down the difference. And the second thing I want you to do is schedule a small, selfish act for yourself. May this be for 10 minutes or 30 minutes. This could be just putting yourself first, checking in with yourself first, what you need on that day, on that weekend, or planning a little walk in the morning, or like a phone-free time in the morning before you do a schedule in your weekly to-do list, or before you prepare your kids' lunch. And number 3 is, when you meet someone new, observe them first and meet them and get to know them before you give your trust away. So do this consistently and you'll start feeling lighter, safer, and more balanced in your relationships. Trust me, these little lessons have transformed the way I see relationships and situations, and it might really help you too. And if you want more support from me, like I have one-on-one coaching to tackle triggers, to walk through with you after a conflict, build confidence and rewire your anxious patterns, and of course become securely attached. I also have WhatsApp support for more quick guidance and in the moment steps, and I help you to challenge your mind, show you blind spots that you might be missing, and to soothe your anxiety more in the moment when your anxious brain goes on overdrive. And you don't have to let anxiety ruin the show or run your relationship. You can feel safe and calm and confident even when they don't respond to your text, even when they don't show up in the way you want them to, if they don't validate you enough or give you enough reassurance. Because healing anxious attachment isn't just about your partner, it's much more about you and your inner peace and calmness and confidence. It's about feeling safe from within safe and calm and empowered, and focus on what you can actually control. Because if you're focusing on things outside of your control, or what your partner feels or what they should do, then you feel anxious and you will reinforce the anxious loop all over again. And when you work on your anxious attachment style, here is what it can look like when you change. You stop spiraling over text, over what ifs scenarios. You stop chasing over giving to feel loved. You set healthy boundaries, eventually without guilt. And you attract partners, secure partners who match your energy as well. You feel more emotionally regulated, meaning you be less snappy, reactive, impulsive. You're able to also speak your truth without fearing they will leave, without feeling you're being rejected or being kicked out of a group, and you don't feel like you have to earn someone's trust. You actually feel like you're good enough and you're not too much, because it doesn't matter how you are, because you find the right people who love you for you, and you can enjoy relationships instead of just fearing every small thing. It's like your nervous system finally relaxes and your brain stops catastrophizing and your heart opens without just panic, and your anxious thoughts that used to control your life, they start losing power and you start living from calm and confidence. And if you're ready for this kind of transformation, get in touch with me either via email or on a free call with me to see if this is the right fit for you. Change in the relationship starts with you, thought by thought, action by action, and now episode by episode. I'm so happy you're here, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Yula. Bye-bye.